Okay, good morning and welcome to Iyun with Benzion. Today we are learning Yevamos, Sadi Tet, number 99. We have an interesting case on the bottom of Sadi Tet and Aleph. The Mishnah says it's a unique case that a mother had a daughter and she also had a daughter-in-law. I'm sorry, that's not the case I want to talk about. The case is a kohenesh and Isari Vlad B'Lashav Chasa, right? You have a woman who's married to a Kohen, and they have a child, right? So now their son is a Kohen, right? And they also have this Kohen, besides having a wife, he also has a Shifra Knainis, right? So the Shifra Knainis has a child, not with the Kohen. The Kohen's not allowed to marry a Shifra, but there's an Evan Knaini also. He owns an Evan Knaini and a Shifra Knainis, and they have a child. Now that child is an Evid. So therefore, it lists a lot of certain dinim. We're not sure. They got mixed up, right? The son of the Avodim and the son of the Kohen and the Kohenes. So one is a Kohen and one is an Evid. We're not sure who is who. So there's a lot of din and we're not sure based on who is who. So the first case is where they weren't Meshachar each other, they didn't free each other. One's Vadai a Kohen and one's Vadai an Evid. We're not sure who is who. So the Mishnah says one of the dinim on the top of Sadi Tam and Beis, Ve'enam Matam L'Mesim. Right? They can't be Matam L'Mesim. They can't, just like a Kohen in Matsuva, he can't go into a cemetery for burial unless it's one of the Zion Krovim. That would be okay. He can't do it because he's a Kafei Kohen. It's something the Raisa L'Chumra. Now, an Evid, seemingly, would have no problem. Evid he's not considered a Kohen. He's not even considered a Yisrael. He's considered an Evid. He might be part of the Mishpachas Kuna to get Truma, but he can't go and be Matam. He could go and be Matam L'Mesim. He's not a Kohen. So therefore, it's a suffix. Suffix the Raisa L'Chumra. You can't be Matam L'Mesim because you might be a Kohen, even though you might be an Evid, but you might be a Kohen. So the Raisa L'Chumra. But it doesn't say. We're going to see in the Seifa. The Seifa says an interesting case. You mind going to a different place? Alright, anyway, it's a little rude that I'm giving a shir and people just come and speak very loudly on the phone here, but what can I do? It's not. I don't own the shul. This is public property, so, I don't get to tell people if they can leave or not. I could ask them nicely, but... so basically, and then there's a second case in the Mishnah says, V'shichru zed zeh. Let's say, right, they emancipated each other. Eventually, I guess the parents of the Kohen died, which means the Kohen, the son, inherited the Evid. So we don't know who's the Kohen and who's the Evid. So therefore, to get around this, they want to free each other. Neither of them wants to be an Evid or Suffolk Evid, so they're Meshachar each other. They write a get shichr. And so therefore, if he's a Kohen, he's a Kohen, and I'm a Shachar, a Kohen, and the one who's an Evid is Meshuchra, and he becomes a regular Yisrael. So now he becomes a regular Yisrael. So what does the Mishnah say? So now they did that. No, so Nashim Rules going. They can't be both of them can't be Tamal Mesim, right? Because one of them's a Kohen, and one's a Yisrael. So tell us something the L'Chumra. V'im nitmo in itself as our boy. If they do are Tamal Mesim, they weren't supposed to. They don't get punished because, just like by killing someone, we go. Suffix nefashos lakula, right? That when there's a suffix, whether you should kill someone or not, we don't kill the person. Also by malchus, we don't give a tribute, we don't give a punishment. Malchus is hookish to mita, like killing someone. It's like half of misa. Beating someone up is like half killing him. So you don't do that misafik because he might be Israel, and Israel is allowed to go into a cemetery. Now Tosos. The top Tosos in Sadi Tam and Beis says ve'enam matam l'mesim teimol ari. Damaylo kasani nami ve'en sof k'nesar boim. Right, we have the first case talking about a Suffolk Kohen, Suffolk Evid of a Kohen. So just like it says in the Seifa that you're not allowed to tam l'mesim misafik, and if you do ma'armatama, you don't get malchus because it's a Suffolk. Why don't say that over here in this case also in sof k'nesar boim, right? And he says, "V'mishum d'snan b'seifa lo chashish noso." It's because already said in the Seifa in sof k'nesar boim. We're relying on the Reisha. Hakasanim matam l'meisim alpha gav d'tana b'seifa. Right? Then why say even at all? Why say in the first case matam l'meisim? So I want to say a big chiddush over here, based on Tosa's question, that the matam l'meisim and they actually would get malchus. Matam l'meisim is not with Torah suffix, Torah is vadai. That in Evid you have a Kohen and you have an Evid of a Kohen. Now, is Evid a Kohen? We're assuming until now that he's allowed to be Tamal L'Mesim, because he's just an Evid. But at the same time, an Evid does get to eat Truma, like a Kohen. So, what status does an Evid of a Kohen have? an Eved of a Kohen is property of the Eved Ketani is property to the point that he is like almost as a kin and goof according to some opinions in Kiddushin. So we mentioned before the wife of a Kohen gets the truma. I wanted to say because it's a kula because he acquired her, so he's allowed to feed her truma because that's part of his parnasa. The child of a Kohen gets the truma, mishpachas Kohen, even if he's a daughter of a Kohen, you're part of the mishpacha. An Eved is a third chiddush, I want to say. There's a kinyan goof for an Eved. He actually becomes sort of like a Kohen. He has Kedushas Kuna. The Eved, obviously a girl, there's no Kedushas Kuna. Kedusha only runs it along the male line. So only men can have Kedushas Kuna. Obviously, right, even though he's a Kedushas Kohen, he can't marry a Bas Yisrael. He's still an Eved. He can't marry a Bas Yisrael. Why can't he marry a Bas Yisrael if he has Kedushas Kuna? So this is the big chiddush to say that, like we split before, he has Kedushas Kahuna, but he's not part of the Kal. He's not part of the congregation. He's busy in the fields working. He's doing whatever you want him to do. So he can't come to Minyan. He can't be part of the Kal. So that's why the Torah says in Parshas Kiseitze, it says, I think in Parakal Gimel, it says, Lo yak kadesh lebnei Yisrael, lo yak kadesh lebas Yisrael, meaning a ben Yisrael, the daughter of Yisrael. It specifically says the sons of Yisrael and the daughters of Yisrael. To tell you that what the Torah is interested about over there is the sons and daughters, which are not talking about the kedusha of the Kohen, talking about being part of the Kal of the Kohen. So they're part of the Kal, Yisrael, ben Yisrael or Bas Yisrael. They're part of the Kal. And they can't marry an Eved or a Shivcha. That's what Uncle says that the Pasuk is referring to. That's where we learn it from, because they're not part of the Kal. So it's interesting. They actually, because of the Kinyan and Goof, he actually becomes a Kohen, and therefore he can't be both of them, whether you're a Kohen, son of a Kohen, or the Eved of a Kohen, you can't be Metam Mesim. And it says, Metam Mesim in the Reisha, that's Vad, the Torah is Vadai. And if you are Metam Mesim, you would get Malchus. That's the big Chiddush. You would get Malchus because there's no Safek. You're Vadai, Asr Metam Mesim. Eved Kohen takes on Kedushas Kahuna. Not obviously a Shivcha Canaanis doesn't, because the Kedushas Kahuna only applies to men, not to women. He's an Eved. It would take on the Mamish Kedushas Kahuna. He wouldn't be part of the Kal. He wouldn't even be part of the Kal Hashem, part of Klal Yisrael, but he would be Kedushas Kahuna, and therefore he can't be Metam Mesim, and he would get Malchus. And even if an Eved Kohen and Metam Mesim, you get Malchus, to be a big Chiddush. I don't know if you could say this, but I did just say that, so I hope it's correct. See you in Mishnah Yomi.